The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. When I was young, I remember hearing stories how everything used to cost 5 cents. But now, everything has consistently got more expensive. And it was all because of the government. These useless politicians did not know how to control prices. Their complaining would last for hours and hours. And that's exactly what reactive people do. They always focus on the things that they cannot control. It's not possible that a concept like inflation would exist. And if it did, it's impossible that they wouldn't know about it already. On the other hand, proactive people realize, look, even if my complaints were completely legitimate, it doesn't help me. So instead, I'm going to focus on what I can control. If a proactive person owns a business where he sells a product, instead of focusing on how people these days don't appreciate quality products anymore and how the government has horrible regulations, instead he focuses on how can I improve my product so my customers can't live without it. Do you realize how much responsibility, how much hard work is involved in designing such a product? It is so much easier to simply blame other people or blame the economy for why consumers don't want to purchase your product. And that is exactly why most people focus on the things that they cannot control, rather than focusing on the things that they can. Habit number 1 is be proactive. Now imagine you're at a funeral, but not just any funeral. You're at your own funeral. You're standing over the casket, and as you look inside it, you see yourself laying motionless inside the casket. What do you have to say about yourself? This is one of the most powerful questions you could ask. Are you doing the things in your life which are aligned with what you want to be able to say? Do you want to say that you are a good spouse? And if that's the case, does coming home and instantly complaining to your spouse, or worse yet, complaining about your spouse, is that what a good partner should do? Do you want to be remembered as a person who added value to society? If that's the case, are you doing the things that will allow you to say that? Or are you scared of failure and choose comfortable mediocrity instead? Almost every one of us will have to readjust how we live when we ask ourselves this question. Habit number 2 is begin with the end in mind. Now, if I were to ask you, what are the most important things to you? The most common answers I would get would be either your well-being or your relationships, your family, your spouse, your children. You would never say things like my job or binge watching Netflix. But how many of us spend more time at the office and watching TV than planning our nutrition and going to the gym or cultivating a healthy family environment? There's a horrible disconnect between what we say and how we actually allocate our time. Habit number 3 is put first things first. Or in other words, if it's important, then make it important. Now imagine you're an author and I'm an author and we both write a book and we both have access to an audience of about 100,000 people. I read your book and I liked it, so I decided to share it with my audience. And as a result, now you have thousands of people buying your book and reading your ideas. You notice this and think, who is this guy? Let me take a look at his book. You start reading my book and think that I have some pretty good ideas as well, so you decide to share it with your audience. And as a result, I now have thousands of people buying my book and reading my ideas. Notice how different this is from going online and trying to sabotage your competition by leaving them a bad review, hoping that this will deter a few people from buying their book, which will in turn somehow get them to buy your book. Habit number 4 is think win-win. Stop thinking everything as a zero-sum game. For you to win, another person does not have to lose. Something I want my viewers to do is subscribe to my channel. But you will never hear me say, "Look guys, I worked really hard on this and so I deserve this. Please subscribe." Look, who cares if I worked hard? Who cares if I spent days creating this video? The real questions are, does it offer value to you? And why should you dedicate your time to subscribing when you could be doing anything else that you want? You see, ultimately it's not about me or my videos that I create. First and foremost, this entire thing is all about you, my audience. I could make a great video about something that nobody cares about, in which case I've wasted my time and your time. Before I just open my mouth and start talking, I need to ensure that the topic is of relevance to my audience. And that is hard because most people like to talk. They want to get their point across. But in doing so, they often fail to listen to what the other person has to say. While they are talking, you are only half-heartedly listening. And instead of actually paying attention to what they have to say, you are mentally formulating your rebuttal and what you are going to say next. Habit number 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Now imagine there are 2 people and a tree with 5 apples on it. They are both too short to reach the apples, but if one of them sits on the other's shoulders, he can reach all 5 of the apples. This is called synergy. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Here, the old adage of "there is no I" in team applies. By working together as a team, you are often able to achieve significantly more than if you had each gone and done your own thing. With every synergistic opportunity you create, you can gather many more apples than you would otherwise have been able to accumulate. Habit number 6 is SYNERGIZE. 2 men are tasked each with cutting down a massive tree. The first person grabs his axe and immediately begins chopping away. Chop, 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 chop. Hours later, the man is exhausted, sweaty, his hands are blistered, and he's only chopped halfway through the tree. The second man, upon hearing that he needs to cut down a tree, calmly walks over and begins to sharpen his axe. Once he is satisfied that his axe is razor sharp, he then proceeds towards the tree, and with each swing of his axe, cuts deep into the tree. This man is able to fell the tree in record time without even breaking a sweat. You see, sometimes, in order to go fast, we must first slow down. By spending a little time preparing for the task ahead, we can often identify ways in which we can be more efficient. Habit number 7 is sharpen your axe. And these are the 7 habits of highly effective people by Stephen Covey.